Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Audio Judo. Very exciting, exhilarating, perhaps up to an hour worth of entertainment for your ears. Very excited about this episode. And why is that, Kyle?
Because today we're talking about Boston by the band Boston.
Oh, yeah. Very excited that you picked this record. Very excited.
I was very surprised that you were like so excited when I picked this.
Why is that?
I don't know. I knew that you were obviously familiar with this because it's a classic rock album.
Sure.
And everybody that's interested in classic rock knows this album. But when I suggested it, you like lit up and you're like, really? Really? I was like, yeah, why is that bad? And you're like, no, I love that album. It's amazing.
Yeah, when you picked it, I was excited because hands down, I think it is one of the finest rock records ever recorded.
I would tend to agree with you there. It's an all-around great album. Not only is it well recorded and it sounds awesome, it's fun to listen to. It's just that right amount of time where it doesn't drag on. There's no track on here that I feel like it's like, oh, that's really like long, or
it is.
Oh, that's really, there's too much going on there. Like,
it is near perfect.
It is.
And I would be hard pressed to find and name another record that is single-handedly as good as this one from top to bottom. So I was talking with my friend Chris. Let's just go ahead and call him my show consultant from now on.
Okay, that's fair.
That's just fair. Where we're at. And we were talking about this, and he said, and I quote him, first three songs, their best three songs. And then he asked, has that ever happened? I'll go him one further. I'd say every single one of these songs should be on that list. Wow. I'd say these are their best 8 songs. Everything post Boston, like the rest of the records, Don't Look Back and Third Stage, are derivative of this sound, this particular sound. And I know I'm going to get some pushback from my big brother about that, because he'll say that there's some good stuff on Don't Look Back. But I say that all this stuff is just retreads. All that stuff is just retreads of what they did here.
Yeah.
And I don't, honestly, I don't believe that there's actually a bad song in their catalog, generally speaking, because they've taken the blueprint so effectively from these first 8 songs and applied them on everything else. So they should sound great. They're just not very original anymore. So they're all listenable.
Yeah.
They're all enjoyable. They're all fun. But they're not anything new post this.
It's that Boston sound,
right?
That everybody
it's the
talks
Boston
about.
Sound.
And they've found a way. It was so successful on this album that they have found a way to just keep that sort of sound going through all the rest of their work.
Absolutely.
And we're not the only ones that think this is a great album, too.
No, that's true.
Because not only is it reviewed incredibly well, but 3 singles from it were top 40 hits. More Than a Feeling was number 5. Long Time was 22nd on the top 40. And Peace of Mind was 38th on the top 40. RIA certified it gold in 3 weeks after release. Certified platinum, which is 1 million copies sold after 3 months. It's the fastest platinum album until Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction came out. It's still number 2.
The debut. Yeah.
The debut album. Excuse me. That's correct. I was like, wait a minute. What word am I missing there? It's the fastest debut album. Debut album. Actually, I think that would go to Sir Mix-a-Lot.
That is true.
The fastest debut album.
How many? 17 million copies sold in the United States.
Yes.
25 million worldwide.
That is insane.
This is the benchmark.
Yes.
So a little bit of background on Boston. I'll give you a little background here. So Tom Scholz, who for all intents and purposes, no, I didn't say for all intensive purposes because
thank you
punch me in the face, but for all intents and purposes, Tom Scholz is Boston, with the exception of Brad Delp and some occasional role players. But Tom Scholz is Boston. So he's knocking around the Boston club scene while he's attending MIT. After he gets his master's degree, he starts working for Polaroid and begins building himself a little home studio.
So I think we need to explain to the kids out there.
Polaroid.
Polaroid was a camera company that they had instant cameras.
Yeah, you had to develop your own photos. They didn't just show up on your computer screen.
Yes, you took the picture and you had to wait about 2 minutes and shake the photo or not shake the photo, depending on who you ask.
See Outcast for that. There's a tip. I'll tell you what to do with it exactly. You'd shake it.
Yes, like a Polaroid picture. Mm-hmm. Not to interrupt, but I felt that we needed to clarify that.
No, that's fine. That Polaroid, that's a big deal. So he begins building this little home studio where he records a bunch of demos. Sent them out to numerous studios or record companies, and they're all summarily rejected. Everything.
Yeah.
So in 1974, records a new set of demos with what I believe to be the missing key at this point, and that's Brad Delp and his voice. And he adds a drummer in there for to boot. Scholz plays everything else on the bass, keys, guitar, everything. And 5 of the songs on those demos ultimately make it to the record that is the first Boston record. Exceptions are Long Time and Smokin', which are written later. People start to take notice. They dump their drummer, hire a new drummer, do a live showcase with a whole new band setup, and it's a huge success. And the band signs a deal that would ultimately haunt them for years to come. So we get to the recording of Boston, the record.
The studio, the label really wanted them to come out to California to record. And they were just like, you got to come out here to a studio. We've got engineers. We've got all these people. And Tom Scholz was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I feel more comfortable in my own studio. I want to stay here. I want to do it.
And he doesn't trust anybody in the industry.
Exactly.
So he's already shying away from being involved with that studio scene.
Yeah. And so they kind of pull over what might be one of the greatest cons in the music industry ever. So I'm drawing a blank on his name and I didn't write it down. Richard, the guy who signed him.
I forgot.
Well, we'll just say their producer.
All right.
So their producer is talking with Tom Scholz, and he basically says, here's the deal. I'm going to take the rest of the band out to LA, and we're going to pretend to record in a studio. And you stay here in your home studio and record the whole album. And then once you're done, we're going to take the tapes out to LA, and we'll engineer them and edit them there. And that's how we're going to make this whole album. So the production company is Epic. Mm-hmm. And they're thinking that this is all happening in LA and the band's out there and they're actually recording, when in fact Tom Scholz is recording the whole album in this basement of this house that he rented outside of Boston.
Yeah, he's got a snake running from a remote truck that he has parked in his driveway in through the basement window into his pine paneled basement, little corner next to the water heater type studio.
And it was so small. They did have a drum kit set up down there, but if they wanted to play the organ, they had to take the drum kit down and haul it out of the basement to bring the organ out so they could play it, because they had a Leslie, which is a Leslie speaker, which is this big speaker box that has a speaker horn in it that spins around to create this really unique sound. And in order to get it out into the middle of the room where they could actually record it, they had to take the whole drum kit, take it apart, take it upstairs, leave it in the kitchen or wherever, and then come back down to the basement, pull the Leslie speaker out in the middle of the room, fire it up, and play the organ.
Yeah, like normal.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds like the normal process that one would undertake when
obviously
they're recording a record for a major label.
I undertake that every day. I take my drum kit apart, I pull the Leslie out. It's great. It's fine.
That makes sense.
So that's how the whole album was recorded. They Tom Scholz did pretty much everything in his basement, and then they went out to LA and recorded the vocals and some of the drum tracks, I believe, in LA, and then engineered it all there. And
let's talk for a second about Tom Scholz.
Okay.
And the wizardry that is Tom Scholz. So MIT graduate,
yes,
multiple degrees, and this guy is tinkering around with sound. Besides being an excellent player, he's also has all these ideas for how to layer, how to split, how to harmonize, how to make one guitar sound like several guitars.
Yeah.
And he develops this unit, this chorus pedal, essentially called the Rockman, which is now an industry standard. And that this gets developed in this little basement studio while he's working on this record. And this is the benchmark. This is the benchmark, the landmark rock album, which precipitated the advent of arena rock. This is where I believe arena rock was born, with this record. And then you start to break down More Than a Feeling, its acoustic guitar parts. All that's recorded on a $100 Yamaha guitar.
Yeah.
The entire album was recorded for like a few $1,000s.
Yeah. And that's
talking about an ROI.
Yeah. And that's so unheard of. I mean, a low investment for an album like this from a studio would have been $500,000 at this time. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about, like you said, a couple $1,000. That's insane.
So the first time, let's see. So the first time I heard this record, so this was one of those. This is one of those Big Brother influenced records.
Of course.
So he had this. He loved Boston, loves Boston. I used to listen to it all the time in the basement while he was doing his homework, and I'd be down there playing, and that kind of thing seeps in.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I first got my paper route, of course, one of the first things I wanted to do was buy a bunch of music. And so 13 years old, 1986-ish, early part of 86. Yeah, you were 2.
I was 2. I just want
thanks a lot for
point
that
out.
Yeah. Shut up, jackass. So, it was 1986. I was 13. First thing I want to do is buy a bunch of music, and like any idiot at that age, I fell for the oldest trick in the book, the old Columbia House rope-a-dope.
Oh no!
Ooh, 12 records for 1 penny.
Right?
How could I go wrong, Mom? Well, you don't want to do it. Yes, I do want to do that.
I absolutely
want to do that. So this one, so the first Boston record and Third Stage are 2 of the 12 that I ordered because I wanted my own copies of this because I listened to it on 8-track. My brother had an 8-track. He had it on vinyl. I wanted my own copies of it, and I ran that tape to death. Ran it out. Because I listen to it all the time. Because it's such an easy listen. It's such a refreshing listen. They're just great songs.
It's very appealing. It appeals to a huge amount of people, a huge audience. It's pleasant and it's fun to listen to. And I guarantee that even if you're not somebody who has ever even consciously heard of Boston before, mm-hmm. if we were to play this album for you, or if you go listen to it right now, you'll recognize at least one song on here, probably more than one, because they're so popular and they still get tons of airplay.
Even
on
you
classic
youngsters,
rock stations.
Even you youngsters have probably played these songs on Rock Band or Guitar Hero.
I didn't even think about that.
That's how my kids know them. I would play it in the car after that, and they're like, "Oh." And they'd start singing along. I'm like, how do you know the words to this song? I don't know that I've ever played this. And they're like, oh, it's on Rock Band. It's on Guitar Hero. I'm like, oh, there are redeeming qualities on video games. Like, that's good to know. And so many of these songs were already written for the demo. So Smokin' was originally a song called Shakin'
Yes.
that Brad Delp had written. Hitch a Ride was originally called San Francisco Day. So I did mention that it's a near perfect record. So one of the things show consultant Chris and I have talked about is how important and how crucial the actual order of the songs is for a record. So if I had my choice, what I would have done is I would have finished the record with Long Time, and I would have put Hitch a Ride to end the first side. That's what I would have done, because with the keyboard solo for a Long Time right at the beginning, to me that's a perfect album closer.
That would have been very interesting.
So if I had my choice, that's the only thing in my head that keeps this from being a perfect record.
And I wonder if that was more of I mean, obviously all musicians make some kind of conscious decision of what order they're going to put things in the album. But I wonder if this was more of this is our first album type of a situation for them to pick this order? Or do you think that it was more of this is how it has to fit because of the length of everything?
Yeah.
Or do you think that it was they picked this order for a specific reason?
No. Yeah, I feel like it's B. I feel like they set it up because the Long Time, Foreplay Long Time is such a longer song that they finished out that A side, and then so the balance of the record, so it's 3 songs on the front, 5 on the back. I never understood why they would have finished it with Let Me Take You Home Tonight. It just seems like a weird ending to me.
Yeah.
But
I can what's weird about that to me as well is it really feels like the middle of Let Me Take You Home Tonight would be like a great ending. And then it kind of has that reprise, and it builds back up, and it's like,
well, he is good at the building.
Yes.
He does like to build. And so, everything about it from top to bottom, the album cover is legendary.
I was just about to talk about that, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what would you like to say about it?
So, do you know who Paula Scher is?
Nope.
She's a very famous designer, but she's the one who designed this. She was working at Epic back in the 70s.
What's her name?
Paula Scher, Scher. She's a very famous graphic designer. She does a lot of stuff with typography and text, but she designed this cover, and apparently they went through quite a few iterations, including stuff where it was like, it's a Boston cream pie that says Boston on it.
Oh, please, God, no.
And just all kinds of really dopey, Boston themed stuff that they said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
It's a Red Sox baseball cap.
And I guess Tom Scholz said, it has to be, I want like a space, or I want a guitar on the cover, I believe is what he said. And she came up with this design of the guitar-shaped spaceship with the city of Boston in the guitar spaceship, and they're flying away from exploding Earth. And I guess the original design had them shooting lasers at the Earth. And Tom Scholz said, no, Boston would never attack the Earth. We need to be doing something more positive. So they're getting away from an exploding Earth, which is apparently more positive.
Escaping, even though that's a Journey record.
Yeah.
He's got to escape.
There was a quote from Paula Scher. She basically hates this album cover. She thinks that it's pretty mediocre, and it's not her favorite piece of work.
She probably likes the Don't Look Back one more than this one.
I will have to find
because it is a little cooler.
I think I bookmarked it on my computer at home, and I don't have it here. But I will find the article and leave a link in the show notes for you. But she basically said that it's not her favorite piece of work, and she's upset that it sort of is the piece that everybody recognizes. And she's done so much. She really has done a lot of graphic design and a lot of she teaches now. She's a very famous graphic design teacher.
Take what you get,
right?
Though. People remember you for something.
Throw that on your resume, you know. Design the Boston cover. Whatever.
People remember you for the record that sold 25 million of itself. I mean, oh, that's too bad.
It's a shame, right?
That's too bad. And I think I had that over time in 4 different formats: vinyl, cassette, CD, and then deluxe CD.
Ooh.
Like,
Deluxe.
4 of that, Paula. You're welcome. But I remember, and the branding itself, like the badge that is the Boston logo. I'm pretty sure my brother had, remember the old colorful belt buckles?
Yeah.
That were kind of glittery. Pretty sure he had I know he had a Styx one for sure, but I'm pretty sure he had a Boston one as well. And all this just iconic imagery of it. And I mean, like I said, peace of mind, like everything sounds so good. And I think the reason why it's maintained this kind of like its popularity over time is that, yeah, there's a specific sound that kind of dates it, but it sounds good enough to have been recorded now.
Yes.
It doesn't have a dated recording style.
Yeah.
Like the songs might be dated, their delivery might be dated, but the way it sounds sonically, it doesn't sound 1975 to me.
It doesn't fit with a lot of its contemporaries either. Because a lot of people were going for a much dirtier sound, a much, heavy distortion kind of a sound at this point. And this is so clean. And yes, there is, effects pedals and things being used, but it's not like a distortion effect. It's specifically like, God, I can't think tonight. The Rockman amplifier.
Yeah.
It's specifically, it was so popular because it had a huge, incredibly small signal to noise ratio. Mm-hmm. It created this incredibly, incredibly clean sound that didn't have like a lot of distortion and a lot of noise in it.
It's the Boston sound.
It's the Boston sound. I mean, just on Wikipedia, this is a list of people who have used the Rockman in very famous albums.
I have a feeling this is going to be a thorough list.
Tom Scholz from Boston.
I don't believe that for
Obviously.
a second. Oh.
Steve Stevens. Alex Lifeson of Rush.
Yes, I'm familiar with him.
Have you heard of this band before?
Vaguely.
I don't know.
Kinda. Like, I'm not sure.
Oh, look, there's a T-shirt on the wall over there. Oh, there's
One
about
t-shirt?
30 of them. Huh. Let's see here. Charlotte Caffey of the Go-Go's. Phil Collin and Steve Clark of Def Leppard. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. Megadeth on the album So Far So Good from 1988. Bernie LaBarge on his CBS album Bargin' In. Never heard of him before, to be honest with you. Neil Schon of Journey.
Yeah.
Kurt Kirkwood of the Meat Puppets on their album Up on the Sun. Buckethead. Joe Satriani. I can never pronounce his last name. Satriani.
Yeah.
I always say Citriani, and I don't know why. I can see the A in it.
Makes sense. It's
and every time.
Use it.
David Gilmour of Pink Floyd on his solo album About Face.
Oh, it's a great record too.
Never heard that one. I'll have to listen to it sometime.
Also listen to On an Island. That's another one too. That's great. But go on.
That's it. That's everybody that's on the list.
That's the whole list?
That's the whole list. Now, that is by no means a comprehensive list. That is just a list of very famous people and albums that have used this.
It's a highlighted list.
Yes. It's a highlights list.
Highlights list.
Never mind.
Like the magazine?
Yeah, I was going to say like the magazine, but
no, you could say it. So, okay, so a little bit of story here. Okay. So there were 3, we're going to go back in time. We'll go a little bit back in time. This would be about 1988. Don't tell me how old you were again. 4. I was 16.
Please continue.
Okay, so there were 3 rock stations at this time in the Detroit area. WCSX Classics, right? So it's 94.7 WCSX, and they cover about 1969 to 1981. So the end of the Beatles to like Journey,
Okay.
that swath, that's what they play. Right? So Boston would have been prevalent on there. They would have been played on there. Then there's, go up the dial a little bit, 98.7 was WLLZ, Wheels.
Wheels.
And that's, so they focused on AOR, so album-oriented rock, which you would have heard Boston on that station as well.
Makes sense.
But more 1973, 72 to present, so to 88. And then Riff, WRIF, which is Riff, of course, the Riff, 101.1. And as anyone in Detroit is listening, everyone knows that the main guy there was named Arthur Penhallow. He went by the Grand Poobah, and his tagline, he would just come on the radio and go, "Baby," and that's all he would do. That's all he would do. And they had bumper stickers that just said "Baby," and people had T-shirts that just said "Baby," and everyone knew exactly. Yeah, listen to Riff. You listen to Riff. That's cool. You listen to Riff. That's the Riff 101.1. That's so. Little fast forward. That's the only one that's still standing. Is the Riff. That's the only station now that's still all rock station in Detroit. So they, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but the reason why I laid that out there is because it was one of these three stations that did this next thing. I don't know which one it was. I can't remember, but someone will correct me. So I'm going to go with Riff did this, but I'm probably wrong. So they had this show called Headphones Only. And they would do it from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. every Sunday night. And designed, for songs that were mixed, mastered, to be listened to in headphones. So it was the first time I listened to Wind Cries Mary by Jimi Hendrix. I heard it differently in headphones through this show. I heard that song many times, but once you put headphones on, it totally changed the experience. Same with Dark Side of the Moon. It was a totally unique experience with how it was mixed.
That's cool.
So one of the songs that really like cemented this kind of phenomenon for me was Hitch a Ride from the Boston record, because it's mixed and designed so well. So the guitar solos in it are panning left and right. There's a call and response from one ear essentially to the other. And what I appreciate about all that kind of that era is how much time, how much devotion they put into making something unique. I mean, he did probably 100 different versions of More Than a Feeling before he decided, I want to make the perfect song. It's going to take me this long to get here, and I'm going to keep doing it until I get it right, which eventually would be his downfall.
Yeah.
Because they signed this record with Epic, or this deal with Epic that was 10 records in 6 years. Yeah. Which, had he had his head on straight and he knew what kind of a person he was, he would have realized there's no way he could fulfill that commitment.
Yeah.
He spent 3 years on just getting to the Boston record alone, 2 years to get Don't Look Back out. And even he says he felt rushed on that one. He had 2 years. And then it wouldn't be until 1986 when Third Stage came out, after this long, embattled, court fight with Epic Records, because they were absolutely like, you made a deal and he's wiggling his way out of it. Well, he should have known better. He should have been like, oh, I can't sign a deal like that. But, dollar signs.
Yeah.
Like, well, being what they are. But to take that time, like nowadays, the end is the product.
Yes.
And the goal is to get the product to market as fast as possible. And it's very possible that even then that was the goal. I mean, you did have bands churning out, an album or two a year.
Yeah.
More inexpensive, and they were road dogs. They were touring all the time, and that's just kind of what they were. But nowadays, it like, I get in the studio, get 6 additional players in. I'll bring Pitbull in to DL Worldwide at some point, and
Worldwide!
There we go. And then we'll just flush this out, and it's art as commerce, instead of art as art. And we all know, Da Vinci could have probably like banged out a couple extra Mona Lisas for like 20 or 30 lira and been like, oh, yeah, it's fine. But the devotion to craft and to making it unique and your own, which I don't think is there. I think I hate to use the word soulless for music nowadays.
That's a pretty good term.
Generally speaking. Now, there's always exceptions. There are plenty of good bands out there that do it the right way. But generally, as an industry, the music is soulless. Now, back then, that devotion to craft was what would draw people in because it was meaningful. And just a little thing like listening to a song like that in headphones and feeling a unique experience where you're like really wrapped in, though. There's a guitar solo. Okay, I'm familiar with guitar solos. I know, whoa, that's totally different.
Yeah.
That's to me adventurous and cool. And I miss that about music.
See, I think 2 things have happened there too. Number one, there's not a lot of people doing that kind of stuff anymore. It's like you said, it's become more of a business than an art. And the other side of that is that it has been done too much and it's become too repeated and too sensationalized. So once, at the time Boston was doing that kind of stuff, it was new, it was exciting, and then to be able to play it on the radio like that and say, you have to listen to this show on headphones if you really want the full experience. Mm-hmm. That was something that was new and exciting. And then, of course, I'm sure other people picked up on that. And then it became, done to death, where it was just, they were taking the same formula and repeating it over and over and over. And it wasn't a unique experience anymore. It was something that was just, rote, I guess. People were just repeating it over and over and over again.
I did it. Like if I was making tapes for people, at post listening to headphones only, I wanted to and I would insist on hey, I'll use Chris as an example, even though I didn't make any tapes for Chris, but I'm like, hey, Chris, listen to this, but you got to listen to all these songs with headphones. I'm like, well, that's kind of a dick move. I want to listen to it in my car. No.
Too bad.
Can't do it. Headphones only.
You gotta lay in bed and listen on your headphones.
Which is exactly what I would do.
Yeah.
Sunday night at midnight, parents went to bed. I got to get up for school the next day, but I have my stereo in my bedroom, and I got headphones, and I'm laying in the dark, and I'm like, oh my God, I've never heard a song never heard it sound like this. And I know all the words to this song. I know this song back and forth. I didn't know that that's what it did. That's how it was designed to be heard. Because they were probably mixing or mastering with headphones on.
Oh, yeah.
So you're pan everything to the left, pan everything to the right. And that, I don't know, that attention to detail, I think, lacks.
It is pretty cool, too, though, that you can listen to it just, in the car or wherever, and it's a great song. But then you can put on a set of headphones and listen to it again. And it's like rediscovering the song all over again.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I don't hear this in the car. I don't hear this coming out of the mono speaker sitting on my desk. You don't hear that. You hear something totally different.
Right. And I was reminded of that when I was listening to this for show prep, listening to this record again. And I was in the car a couple nights ago listening to Hitch a Ride on the way home, which is still my favorite song on the record. And remembering that solo and knowing note for note and knowing the pan's going to go from left to right, left to right, left to right. So when I went for a run today, I put my headphones in, I listened to the same thing. And it's like, there's a there's a joyfulness in that kind of, again, we've talked about memory albums and where records take you back to. And this is one of those records that, doing my paper route on my bike with my Walkman attached to my hip and listening to this for the 45 minutes it took me to do my paper route and just being so enraptured with what was happening, just being like, I can't believe music is like this. This is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be joyful. It's supposed to be, there's plenty of time to listen to, shoegazery stuff and all that, but there is like this record in particular has that bright, uplifting feel to it, all the way through. And I don't ever get tired of listening to this record, which is why when you mentioned it, I was like so excited because there's nothing about it that I don't like and don't want to talk about and don't want to listen to. Someone puts it on and I'm like, yeah, it's Boston song. Yeah, let's do it. Let's listen to it.
Well, I'm glad I didn't pick something else weird from my list of albums that I want to talk about on the show.
Don't worry, you'll get your chance.
Oh, there will be some weird shit coming up. Trust me.
And in my defense, Rolling Stone gave this a glowing review. Right? They loved it.
Wow.
How often does that happen?
Not often.
Not often.
No. Not very often.
No.
You want to talk about it track by track, or
we can? Yeah. So
album opens with More Than a Feeling.
Yes, it does.
Probably Boston's best known song. Mm-hmm. I would say. Mm-hmm. And it is this very, very long fade in, which is very weird. And it's
like 10 to 12 seconds, right?
It's like 15 seconds to full volume. I timed it earlier today because I was like, why is that so long?
That's good show prep right there.
Right?
Good for you. But it's based on, it has a bit of a stolen sound from a song called Walk Away Renee.
Ooh.
That Tom Scholz openly admits that he kind of based it on that. But
Walk away. Oh, I can't say
by
that.
a band called Left Bank.
Ooh.
And even he used the chord progression following the I See My Marianne Walking Away. Use a chord progression from Walk Away Renee right after that line. So
did not know that.
Yeah.
I was busy running a clock to the fade in. Didn't do enough research apparently. No, but to me, that's one of the things here that has always felt unusual is it's such a long fade in and that's not how so many, I can't think of any other album that starts that way. I can think of a lot of albums where side A fades out and side B fades back in, but I can't think of any that the side A starts with a long fade in. Just off the top of my head anyways. I'm sure there's some out there.
There are. 2112 by Rush starts with a slower fade in with the keyboards, type thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a longer intro.
Yeah.
But that acoustic guitar just sings, it's like
it's beautiful.
It is. And there's nothing objectionable in that. It's just a well-crafted song. And it goes right into Peace of Mind, which is equally good. And that's where that quick strumming that Scholz would kind of utilize many, many times over the next several albums. That sound is very identifiable.
Yes.
As Boston.
The vocals on Peace of Mind, too.
Well, Delp is just he's in a whole other world.
Just blow my mind every time I listen to it. That high note, I can't even like fake get close to that. It's crazy.
I love that song.
It's great.
So there's nothing.
I say it's great a lot. That's okay.
But it is great.
It is great.
Peace of Mind was written about Scholz's Polaroid superiors. Mm-hmm. So he's like obviously pissed off about work. Just when you do your best work is when you're pissed off.
Here's my peace of mind. And I'm leaving to start a band.
We're only going to sell like 31 million copies. It's no big deal.
Not a big deal. Foreplay /
Long time.
time.
And that's one of the older songs. He had been working on that for years and years and years.
He wrote Foreplay when he was a student at MIT, right?
Mm-hmm.
As like a solo piece. And just basically played around with it.
It's almost 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's got the really long instrumental introduction. Scholz said that Foreplay was the first song that he ever recorded and did it on a 2-track machine in his basement. It was the first piece of music that he ever wrote. And He wrote it back in 1969.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So he plays the solo on Hammond M3. Contrary to popular belief, the song was not recorded on a B3 because he didn't have enough money. Couldn't afford one. Bass part was doubled by a clavinet. And the synthesizer-like swoops in the song were produced by scraping a pick across the strings of a guitar in conjunction with distortion and delay. There is no synthesizer
Really?
on that record, on that song at all. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And he played none of the guitar solos on that song. All the guitar solos were played by Barry Goudreau. None of them were played by Tom Scholz on that song.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that's a good little tidbit. Tidbit there. Tidbit. You want to keep going?
Yeah. Rock and roll band.
Rock and roll band. Everybody's waiting.
This is the one
Getting crazy.
Just another band out of Boston.
Anticipating.
Great opening line for a song. Especially because it's so prophetic.
It's prophetic and total bullshit, though. It's complete and total crap.
What makes you say that?
Right here, where it says the song's lyrics exaggerate the band's story as they spent years of work and rejection to get their recording contract rather than suddenly being discovered by a record executive who happened to catch a show. It's a bunch of crap.
All right.
So Boston's official website acknowledges that song is a charming bit of group self-mythology.
A charming bit.
So what are you saying? I'm saying I made the whole thing up to sell some records in Boston. Sell some records.
Records in Boston. Park the car in the Harvard Yard.
Park the car in Harvard Yard. But it's a great song anyway.
It is. Smokin' is such a gut bucket Southern rock song.
Gut
and it's
bucket.
So great.
He just said gut bucket.
Bucket Southern rock.
Gut bucket.
Gut bucket.
Originally called Shakin'.
Yeah.
It's a song that was covered by Anthrax at one point, which I think is an excellent version of that song. It's so good.
Now all I can think about is Randy's face when I said gut bucket. That was the angriest look.
What?
Sorry. All
Just because he said gut bucket?
Gut bucket Southern rock.
Did you get that from Rolling Stone?
I did. No, I'm kidding. I don't
Is that
know.
in the Rolling Stone review?
No,
Gut bucket?
I don't know where that. I don't know where that term actually came from. Gut bucket.
Just. What's after that?
Hitch a ride.
Hitch a ride.
It slows it down a little bit.
So good though.
It is, and it slows it down. It kind of gives you a little break in the middle of the side of the album.
Right, and there's a keyboard part on there that Scholz pulled the old George Harrison and slowed the tape down with his finger to kind of give it just a weirder sound to it.
A little bit of a warble.
Warble's a good word. Warble. And then what comes after that?
Something about you.
Which
Probably,
if there was one that it wasn't my favorite track on this record, that's at the bottom. It's still great.
This is also the song that I think most people are least familiar with from this album, just because it's not played frequently. It doesn't show up on rock radio very often unless they're like playing this whole album.
I heard it on Classic Rewind.
Ah, okay.
And it was, I was surprised that I heard it. But it's still fantastic.
It is.
It's still a great song.
Now, you said fantastic.
I did that one.
Let Me Take You Home Tonight.
I did that on purpose. And that's
rounds out the album.
Right, and that's the one I feel like should end the first side.
Yes.
No. Hitch a Ride should end the first side.
Oh.
Hitch a Ride should end the first side. Let Me Take You Home Tonight moves up one track. Long Time moves to the bottom and finishes the record. That's how I would do it if I were a producer. That's what I would do.
I just love the, I don't even know how to describe it, the sort of, it's almost like a gospel song in the end of Let Me Take You Home Tonight.
Oh, there's a lot going on. When the pace picks up.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much going on.
There is. That's it. That's Boston by Boston.
It indeed is. You know, like Kyle said, I would say there can't be a lot of people out there that don't know anything about this record.
Yes.
That or have not heard, whether that be listening to the radio or playing Rock Band or Guitar Hero or hearing it in a movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty omnipresent. It's been around for a long time.
I see what you did there.
And so we know you've heard it. And for me, it's just, like I said at the outset, it's just one of the finest rock records I think ever recorded. Set the table for arena rock. Became the benchmark that bands like REO Speedwagon, Journey, Styx, Kansas, all those bands would look back on and be like, that's where we want to be.
There's one more that you didn't mention in there that I think is they took so much from Boston. Not took, but they were so heavily influenced by Boston, and they're such a weird outlier. The Darkness.
Oh.
Because it was this huge gap, because there was all this rock era stuff that kind of went away because of the 90s sound. And then along comes The Darkness in 2003. And they're so heavily, even the cover to Permission to Land, their first album, it's a naked woman on the end of a runway with two ping pong paddles directing a giant spaceship to land. And it says Permission to Land underneath her on the tarmac. It looks exactly like a Boston album cover. And a lot of the music on it is very, very heavily influenced by Boston. You can
I'll have to go back and
hear
look at it.
And they've since their sound has changed a lot over the years, but that first album is very heavily influenced.
What's the name of it? Darkness what?
Permission to Land. There's a couple of pretty good songs on there. It's it is a pretty good album. I like it. So,
well, that's fair. You're entitled to like it.
No,
I don't know that I've ever listened to front to back. I know I've listened to parts of it, but I haven't listened to the
I
whole
believe
thing.
in a thing called Love is the song that everybody knows.
Of course.
There.
I know that.
And the music video for that is kind of a ridiculous send up.
It's a little over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
a little over the top.
It's a little over the top. But that's Boston. Boston. And we're glad that you hung with us for whatever, however long this episode lasts. And we really appreciate people coming back. We're starting to get a little bit more feedback.
Yes.
Things are starting to roll and happen. We have some more interviews lined up, and things are getting a little exciting, and we're happy to do it for you. If you have questions or show ideas or any sort of feedback, negatively or positively,
or if you want to tell us what your Boston story is,
please do.
This is one of those albums that I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are like, the first time I met my future wife, we were listening to this album, or, the first time our child was conceived to More Than a Feeling, or please keep it PG, please.
I'll do a short recap of that.
Oh boy.
But no, I mean, if you send me the story, I'll do a short recap of it.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and no. But yeah, let us know. And next episode, we get some feedback. We'll cover the top of the show, and so we can share some stories with you. I think hopefully we'll have an opportunity to do that in the future. If you want to get a hold of us, You can get a hold of us at info@audiojudo.com or Facebook at Audio Judo, Twitter, Audio Judo, Instagram at Audio Judo.
Very simple.
Simple enough. And reach out and let us know what you think.
Please.
I have a couple of show ideas for the next show.
Ooh.
And I don't know where Kyle's going to land on which one of these he's going to want to do. So one show idea is basically covering a window of when someone was at their peak creatively and then quickly faded out of the limelight.
Ooh.
Or I've done a bunch of research on this. It's not one particular night, but it's a generalization. It's the night that hair metal died and grunge was born.
Ooh.
So it's up to you. I know I'm leaning towards doing the hair metal grunge thing.
I think we got to do that one.
And I think it'd be very interesting because it's not technically one night, but there are some big landmarks when the death knell was rung for hair metal. So hopefully you'll tune in for that. We got a bunch of exciting stuff coming up. So keep listening and let us know what you think. And until next time.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll talk to you again soon.